For a while now, top lane has been arguably one of the more balanced lanes in League of Legends. Every lane has problem champions that come up once in a while, but it's been quite some time since we've seen a must-ban champion in top lane. The last must-ban champion top was Camille, who came out all the way back in 2016, quite some time ago. Even in that case, that's an example of a new champion coming into League too strong. If you're going to go back to the last time a normal champion just had a power creep to a point where they became a must-pick or ban top, you have to go all the way back to when Poppy and Maokai were dominating the lane with the tank meta. It really has been a crazy long time since someone has dominated the meta top lane, and you can see that in today's champion win rates. Win rates don't tell the whole story, of course, but they can be an indicator of if a champion is starting to get a little out of hand. Ivern, for instance, having a 57% win rate on jungle at the moment is one of the reasons that he's a must-pick or ban in ranked. But while some roles like jungle have these problem champions right now, top lane is relatively tame. Nobody played top has over a 54% win rate at the moment, and even those higher win rate champions include the likes of Pantheon, Talon, and Tryndamere, not exactly anyone overpowered. However, I do believe there is an up-and-coming champion who is starting to creep towards being on the OP side of things, a must-pick or ban champion that might get out of hand soon in top lane, and of course, that champion is Kled. It took a while for a lot of players to figure out how Kled works since his release. He has an odd kit with a lot of unusual mechanics, his passive in particular giving him a playstyle we haven't really seen before, but at the moment he's become an incredibly forgiving champion. You don't have to be a Kled main to do well with him. If you really wanted to, you could first time him in ranked, and you'd be surprised at how well things would work out, assuming you have a basic understanding of his abilities, and a lot of people are doing just that. Currently in platinum ratings and above, Kled has the 7th highest win rate of top laners. In silver and gold ratings, he has the 5th highest win rate, and in platinum alone, he has the 4th highest win rate of any top laner. Again, win rate doesn't tell you the whole story. For example, a lot of these champions with high win rates also tend to have very low pick rates. This suggests that the only people playing these champions are the ones who already main them. For instance, with Mordekaiser being picked in less than 1% of games, only people who are Mordekaiser mains are bothering to take him top lane, and with such an experienced pool of players, it makes sense that they drag his win rate above 50%. On the opposite side of things, if we sort champions by play percentage, then we can see the most picked champions where everyone is trying to play them. It's a much different story. Here, everyone is picking these characters. For instance, with Gangplank having such a high pick rate, both the people who are the Tobias Fates and the Gangplank mains who can do incredible things and get super high win rates, they're of course playing him, but you also have a lot of people who watch their streams, a lot of Tobias Fate fanboys who might pick Gangplank in ranked without much experience or while still being pretty bad themselves. This draws their win rate down, and with the larger player base, you see a lot of these champions have a win rate that hovers around 50%, since for everyone that does really well, there's a bunch of people that drag that win rate down. This 50% win rate on these champions suggests that your skill level determines your success with the champion, not the champion itself being strong or weak. Kled, on the other hand, has an unusually high win rate for his pick rate at the moment. Top laners in platinum and above are picking Kled over 6% of the time. For the top 10 highest win rate champions, that's the highest pick rate by quite a margin. All of this put together points to Kled being a champion who's a little bit stronger than average, at the very least, being someone that you can afford to play him when you're not that experienced and still find quite a bit of success even without that skill or knowledge of the champion. So let's talk a bit about why that might be. I don't mean to disrespect Kled mains in this video. Your champion does have a lot of skill and depth put into his kit, and I recognize that you guys can do some crazy good things that newer Kled players won't be able to pull off. However, at the moment, Kled is currently suffering from a problem that I like to call the Shen problem. Let me explain. If we take a look at Shen's abilities, we can notice something really odd. He only has 3 abilities that he can use on his opponent in lane. His ultimate, Stand United, where he teleports to a teammate shielding them for a certain amount of damage, is a teamfight ability. That's a great teamfight ability. It gives him great global presence and all that. I'm not saying it's a bad ability by any stretch of the imagination, but it's something that he's physically not capable of using in a 1 versus 1 to help him duel an opponent in laning phase. That means when you stack a Shen up against an Aurelia or a Fiora or even a Nautilus who has an ultimate that can be used to duel, he'll almost always lose. He's a champion who falls into one of 2 categories. He'll either be a super strong pick for a lane because he'll be able to win a lane 1 versus 1 with only 3 abilities, or he'll be a very weak pick because he only has 3 abilities at his disposal that will cause him to lose most duels and most matchups 1 versus 1. He currently falls into that second category where at the moment he's kind of weak in laning phase and gets out-dueled by many champions, champions, but he's sort of balanced out by having that great global presence. Another example of this would be someone like Pantheon, who has the opposite problem. Pantheon has a kit that's very strong in 1 vs 1s because his basic 3 abilities are all he needs to win a laning phase. Although his ultimate could technically be used against an enemy top laner, most of the time it's better to use it for global pressure, especially considering that he has plenty of dueling potential even without it. He could 1v1 you with just his Q, W, and E. The thing that balances him out is his mana, where if he duels you at the wrong time, if you hit a power spike, he might lose, and he can run out of mana if he spams his abilities at the wrong moment, as well as he has very poor late game and team fighting ability with his squishy stats and poor scaling. Kled has started to fall into the same category as Pantheon, where he only needs his basic 3 abilities to 1v1 most people top lane. His ultimate is just like Pantheon's, where it can be used technically for a 1v1, maybe even to greater effect than Pantheon's would be, but generally speaking, it's something that you should be saving for ganks, team fights, and similar global pressure. At the moment, Kled just has to use his basic rotation of landing his Q, landing his E, and engaging when he has his W charged up, and that will result in a successful duel against nearly every other top laner in the game. However, unlike Pantheon, Kled is a champion that's a little unusual in that he can still 1v1 you and outdamage you even if he falls behind. At the moment, particularly if Kled is playing against another AD champion and he builds Ninja Tabby, even if he gets solo killed early on, he's still able to outdamage his lane opponent 1 vs 1 despite the deficit that he should have in gold. Currently, this is something that's obviously making him incredibly strong. His abilities consist almost entirely of skill shots and auto attacks, so at the moment the counterplay to him is supposed to be dodging his skill shots. However, unlike most other largely skill shot based champions, and unlike Pantheon for the record, Kled doesn't have any mana. Because he has no resource he has to worry about managing, he doesn't really get punished for missing a skill shot or for spamming it too often in unideal situations. He can misplay and it will largely go unpunished, only really having to worry about the cooldown of the ability. And this video so far has only really been dedicated to explaining one part of Kled's kit, his basic 3 abilities, and how they can allow him to duel almost any other duelist top lane. We haven't even touched on everything else he can bring to the table when you pick him for your team. He has an incredibly frustrating passive, for instance, that makes it incredibly difficult to kill him, and it can bait you into your own death if you misjudge when Skarl is going to come back. We've also barely touched on the global pressure and teamfight potential he has with his ultimate, which is also phenomenal and scales incredibly well throughout the entire match. Again, I'm not saying that Kled takes 0 skill with all his skill shots. That has to equal some level of skill to be played correctly, right? And just yesterday, Zig showed us in LCS's 3rd place match just what someone who knows everything about the champion is able to pull off at the highest tier of play. But I think Kled has started to hit a breaking point where he's so damn forgiving that even an unexperienced player who's first timing him can do pretty well in laning phase. He can still be beaten, of course, but it takes a much bigger deficit than it does for other champions before he can't 1v1 you anymore. In summary, there's a lot that Kled brings to the table and not a lot of weaknesses that he has. Top lane hasn't really seen a super broken champion dominating the meta yet in 2017, but I have a sneaking suspicion that Kled is going to fall into this category. Maybe he'll end up balanced if Riot buffs other top laners, or maybe the Black Cleaver nerfs on the PvE will bring him in line a little bit, but I think he's definitely someone that's worth taking a look at if you're trying to keep your eye out for the next strong pick top lane. Anyway, thank you all very much for watching today's video. I always enjoy doing these champion analysis videos where we go in detail talking about specific things, so I hope you enjoyed watching, but either way, I'll see you all very soon. Until then, good luck in solo queue, and have a wonderful day.